I never thought I'd be writing this story, but after what happened with my children, I need to share it with the world. My name is Sarah. I'm 58 years old, and I live in Portland, Oregon. For 30 years, I worked as a nurse at Oregon Health and Science University Hospital, dedicating my life to helping others heal. I raised 3 children as a single mother after my husband died in a car accident when they were teenagers. Lisa, now 32, works in finance. Michael, 29, is a software engineer, and Jenny, 26, just finished law school. Everything changed on a cold February morning when my phone rang at 6:47 a.m. It was my sister Emma calling from Phoenix, Arizona. Her voice was shaking, barely audible through her tears. "Sarah, I need to tell you something. The doctors, they found something." Emma, my younger sister by 4 years, had always been the strong one. She survived an abusive marriage, raised 2 kids alone, and worked 3 jobs to put herself through college. Hearing her voice break like that sent chills down my spine. "What? Did they find him?" I asked, already knowing I wouldn't like the answer. "Stage 4 pancreatic cancer," she whispered. "They're saying 6 months, maybe less." The coffee mug slipped from my hand, shattering against the kitchen floor of my modest 2-bedroom house in the Hawthorne district. The sound seemed to echo forever in the sudden silence. 6 months. My sister, my best friend, my partner in surviving our dysfunctional childhood, had 6 months to live. "I'm coming to Phoenix," I said immediately, stepping over the broken ceramic. "I'll take care of you." "Sarah, no. You can't just leave your life, your retirement savings, your house." But I had already made up my mind. After losing my husband 20 years ago, I learned that family is all we really have. Money, houses, careers, none of it matters when someone you love is dying. That evening, I called my 3 children to break the news. The reaction was not what I expected. Lisa, always the practical one, was the first to speak up during our video call. "Mom, this is terrible news about Aunt Emma, but you can't seriously be thinking about moving to Arizona. What about your retirement? You've worked so hard to build something for yourself." Michael adjusted his expensive glasses, sitting in what looked like his Silicon Valley apartment. "Mom, be realistic. You're 58. If you liquidate everything now to play caretaker, what happens? To your future? What happens to our inheritance?" The word inheritance hit me like a slap. Here I was, heartbroken about my sister's diagnosis, and my own children were worried about money they hadn't even earned. Jenny, surprisingly, was the harshest. "Mom, I love Aunt Emma, but she made her choices. She moved to Arizona. She distanced herself from the family. Now suddenly she's your responsibility? That's not fair to you, and it's not fair to us." I stared at their faces on my laptop screen, wondering when my children had become such strangers to me. "Your Aunt Emma helped raise you when your father died," I reminded them, my voice steady despite the anger building in my chest. "She worked extra shifts to help pay for Lisa's college tuition. She flew here every Christmas even when she couldn't afford it. And now you're talking about inheritance while she's dying?" The silence that followed was deafening. Over the next week, my children's opposition only grew stronger. They staged what felt like an intervention, showing up at my house with printed financial documents and guilt-inducing arguments. They accused me of being emotional and irrational. They threatened to cut contact if I threw away their future for someone who should have planned better. But they had no idea what I was truly capable of. As I watched them leave that night, something crystallized in my mind. My children needed to learn a lesson about family, loyalty, and what really matters in life. And I was going to be their teacher. Next morning, I began to set my plan in motion. Where are you watching this story from? Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. You won't believe what happens next when my children discover what I've been planning all along. 3 days after my children's intervention, I sat in my local Starbucks on Hawthorne Boulevard, nursing a latte and watching the early morning rain streak down the windows. Portland's March weather matched my mood perfectly: gray, unpredictable, and stormy. But unlike the weather, I had complete control over what was coming next. I pulled out my phone and called my financial advisor, Marcus Chen, whom I'd worked with for 15 years. "Marcus, I need to discuss some major changes to my portfolio and estate planning." "Of course, Sarah. What did you have in mind?" "I want to liquidate my retirement accounts and set up a charitable foundation. I also want to revise my will completely." There was a pause. "Sarah, that's quite a significant decision. Can we schedule a meeting to discuss the implications?" "Absolutely. But Marcus, I need complete discretion. No one, and I mean no one, can know about these changes until I'm ready to reveal them." After hanging up, I drove to my sister's house, the modest bungalow in the Selwood neighborhood where she lived before moving to Arizona 5 years ago. She'd kept it as a rental property, but the tenants had just moved out. Walking through the empty rooms, I could still smell her lavender perfume lingering in the air. I called Emma. "Em, I want to buy your Portland house." "Sarah, you don't need to. I'm not doing this out of pity. I need a base here while I figure out my next moves, but I want to pay you fair market value, cash, within 2 weeks." "That's impossible. Even with cash, the paperwork alone." "Trust me," I said, running my fingers along the kitchen counter where we'd shared countless cups of coffee over the years. "I have connections." The truth was, after 3 decades in Portland's medical community, I knew everyone, including real estate lawyers who owed me favors from the times I'd worked extra shifts to cover their family emergencies. Over the next week, I became a woman possessed. I met with Marcus twice, restructuring everything. I liquidated stocks, cashed out bonds, and moved money into accounts my children couldn't track. The Sarah Mitchell Foundation was born, dedicated to supporting families dealing with terminal illnesses, with a specific focus on pancreatic cancer research. But the foundation was only part 1 of my plan. Part 2 involved my children's greatest weakness: their assumption that they knew everything about my life. Lisa called on Thursday evening. "Mom, I've been thinking about our conversation. Maybe we were too harsh. If you want to help Aunt Emma financially, we understand. Just don't do anything drastic." "Of course, sweetheart," I replied, stirring the pasta sauce in my new kitchen, Emma's kitchen. "I appreciate you calling." "Are you cooking? You sound different." "Just tired from work," I lied smoothly. I'd actually taken early retirement the day before, another detail my children didn't need to know yet. Michael sent a text Friday morning. "Mom, saw you weren't at the hospital yesterday when I drove by. Everything okay?" I didn't respond immediately. Let him wonder. Jenny showed up unannounced Friday evening, finding me packing boxes in my old house. "Mom, what's going on? Michael said you might be sick or something." "Just spring cleaning," I said, carefully wrapping a photo of her father in newspaper. "You know how therapeutic it can be to declutter." She looked around suspiciously. "This looks like more than decluttering. Are you actually planning to move to Arizona?" I met her eyes steadily. "Would that upset you?" "Mom, we've been through this. It's financial suicide. You'd be throwing away everything Dad worked for, everything you've built." "Your father," I said quietly, "would have driven to Arizona the moment Emma called. He would have mortgaged this house, sold his car, whatever it took." "Your father understood that love isn't measured in dollars." Jenny's face flushed. "That's not fair. We love Aunt Emma too, but we love you more. We don't want to see you destroy your future." "And what future is that exactly? Growing old alone while my sister dies alone? Hoarding money for children who see me as a retirement plan rather than a person?" The words hung in the air like smoke. Jenny's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. "I think you should leave," I said gently. I have a lot of packing to do. As her car pulled away, I smiled for the first time in weeks. My children thought they were protecting their inheritance. They had no idea that their inheritance was about to become the greatest lesson of their lives. Phase 3 of my plan would begin on Monday. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp Oregon sunshine that makes you forget all about the rain. I stood in my new kitchen, Emma's kitchen, sipping coffee from a mug that read "Phoenix or Bust," a gift she'd given me years ago that now felt prophetic. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. "Mom, can we take you to lunch this week? We want to apologize for being harsh." Perfect. They were exactly where I needed them to be, concerned but not suspicious. I spent the morning at Providence Portland Medical Center, not as a nurse, but as a visitor. My former colleague, Dr. Patricia Williams, met me in the oncology wing. "Sarah, I heard about Emma. I'm so sorry," Patricia said, embracing me in the sterile hallway. "How are you holding up?" "Actually, that's why I'm here. I need a favor, and it might sound strange." Patricia raised an eyebrow. "Strange how?" "I need you to call my children and tell them I've been coming in for tests. Don't give specifics, just let them draw their own conclusions." "Sarah, that's..." "Patricia, remember when your mother had her stroke last year? Who covered your shifts for 3 weeks without asking for overtime?" She sighed. "What exactly am I supposed to say?" "Just that you've seen me here several times recently, and you're concerned." They'll fill in the blanks themselves. It was manipulative, yes, but my children had shown me that sometimes you have to speak their language to get their attention. Wednesday afternoon, Lisa called in a panic. "Mom, Dr. Williams called me. She said she's been seeing you at the hospital. Are you sick? Are you having tests done?" I let the silence stretch just long enough. "Lisa, I didn't want to worry you kids." "Mom, what's going on? Please just tell me the truth." "I've been having some issues, fatigue, some pain. The doctors want to run more tests." It wasn't entirely a lie. I had been tired, and I did have some back pain from all the packing and moving. The doctor's part was creative interpretation. "Oh my God, Mom, why didn't you tell us? We could have gone with you." "You were all so focused on Emma's situation and your concerns about my finances. I didn't want to add more stress." Within an hour, Michael called. Then Jenny. Suddenly, my children, who had been so worried about their inheritance, were tripping over themselves to show how much they cared. About my health. "Mom, forget everything we said about Aunt Emma," Michael said during our video call that evening. "Your health comes first. We'll support whatever decision you make." "Yeah," Jenny added. "We were being selfish. We're sorry." I looked at their faces on my laptop screen. Lisa calling from her high-rise apartment in downtown Portland. Michael from his tech startup office. Jenny from her law firm's conference room. They were scared now, not of losing money, but of losing me. This was exactly what I needed. "I appreciate that," I said softly. "But you were right about one thing. I can't just abandon my life here. Emma will understand." "No," Lisa said immediately. "If you want to help Aunt Emma, we'll figure out a way. Maybe we can all contribute, or..." "I couldn't ask you to do that," I interrupted. "You have your own lives, your own financial goals." "Mom." "Stop," Michael said firmly. "We're family. We help each other." The irony was so thick I could taste it. Over the next few days, my children transformed into the loving, supportive people I'd raised them to be, at least on the surface. They offered money, time, help with arrangements. They suggested I take a leave of absence instead of retiring. They even started planning visits to see Emma. But I knew this newfound concern was built on a foundation of fear and guilt, not genuine love. They were motivated by the possibility of losing me, not by understanding what they'd almost lost in themselves. Thursday evening, I sat in Emma's living room, surrounded by moving boxes and photo albums. I called her in Phoenix. "How are you feeling today, Em?" "Tired, but fighting. The new treatment is rough, but Dr. Rodriguez thinks it might buy us some time." "How's the master plan going?" I laughed despite everything. You know me too well. Phase 1 is complete. They think I'm sick. Sarah, you're evil. I love it. Just wait until you hear about phase 2. Emma coughed, a sound that reminded me why I was doing all this. Tell me. Sunday dinner. Here. All 3 kids. I'm going to announce my decision about moving to Phoenix. And then, well, let's just say they're going to learn exactly what kind of people they really are. And if they fail the test? I looked at a photo of my children at Christmas 5 years ago, all smiles and hugs around the tree. Then they'll discover that some lessons come with permanent consequences. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. The confrontation you've been waiting for is coming, and it's going to change everything. Sunday arrived with the kind of Pacific Northwest drizzle that makes you want to stay inside with soup and a good book. Instead, I was preparing for what might be the most important meal of my children's lives. Emma's dining room table, my dining room table now, was set for 4. I'd made all their favorites. Lisa's beloved beef stroganoff, Michael's favorite, garlic bread, and Jenny's requested apple crisp for dessert. The smell of comfort food filled the house, masking the tension I felt building in my chest. At exactly 6 p.m., they arrived together. They'd clearly coordinated, probably strategizing about how to handle their sick mother. Lisa carried flowers, Michael brought wine, and Jenny had a folder of what looked like medical information. "Mom, you look good," Lisa said, studying my face as she handed me the bouquet. "How are you feeling?" "Better, actually. Clearer than I felt in years." We settled around the table, and for a moment, it felt like old times. The conversation flowed naturally. Work stories, neighborhood gossip, shared memories. But I could see the underlying tension in their eyes, the way they watched me for signs of illness or distress. Finally, over dessert, Jenny cleared her throat. "Mom, we need to talk about your health situation. And about Aunt Emma," Michael added. "We've been thinking about how we can help." I set down my fork and looked at each of them. "Actually, there's something I need to tell you all. I've made some decisions." They leaned forward, expectant. "First, about my health. The doctors say I'm fine. Just stress and exhaustion from everything, with Emma." The relief on their faces was immediate and genuine. "Second," I continued, "I've decided to move to Phoenix. I'll be leaving next weekend." The silence that followed was deafening. Lisa's fork clattered against her plate. "Mom, but you just said you're okay," Michael stammered. "Why would you still move?" "Because Emma needs me. Because she's my sister. Because that's what family does." Jenny's jaw tightened. "We've been through this. You're destroying your financial security for someone who what?" I interrupted. "Who should have saved money for her own medical expenses," Lisa finished bluntly. "Mom, we were supportive when we thought you were sick too, but this is different." And there it was, the ugly truth I'd been waiting for. "So you're only supportive when you think you might lose me?" I asked quietly. "That's not what we meant," Michael said quickly. "Then what did you mean?" The room fell silent except for the rain pattering against the windows. "Look," Jenny said, switching to her lawyer voice. "We've done some research. Aunt Emma's medical bills will easily exceed $500,000. If you liquidate everything to help her, you'll have nothing left. No retirement, no security, no inheritance for us." "There it is again," I said. "Inheritance. Yes, inheritance." Lisa exploded. "Is that such a crime? You've worked your entire life to build something. Dad died young and left us with nothing but debt. You crawled out of that hole through sheer determination. And now you want to throw it all away?" "Your father and I didn't just build wealth," I said slowly. "We tried to build character in our children. Apparently, we failed at the latter." "That's not fair," Michael protested, "isn't it? 3 weeks ago, when I told you Emma was dying, your first concern was your inheritance. Tonight, when I'm healthy and making a choice based on love and loyalty, Your first concern is still your inheritance. We're being practical, Jenny shot back. No, you're being selfish. I stood up and walked to the kitchen, returning with an envelope I'd placed on the counter earlier. Since you're so concerned about your inheritance, I thought you should know how much you'll be inheriting. I handed the envelope to Lisa. She opened it with shaking hands and pulled out a single sheet of paper. What is this? She asked, scanning the document. It's a copy of my new will. Read it aloud. Lisa's face went white. I, Sarah Mitchell, being of sound mind and body, do hereby leave my entire estate to the Sarah Mitchell Foundation for terminal illness support. What? Michael grabbed the paper. This can't be legal. It's completely legal, signed and notarized yesterday. Jenny was already on her phone, probably Googling whether they could contest it. You can't do this, Lisa whispered. We're your children. You are. And I raised you to be better than this. So this is punishment? Michael's voice was rising. You're punishing us for being honest about our concerns? No, I said calmly. This is consequence. There's a difference. I walked to the window, watching the rain streak down the glass. Your father and I struggled financially for years after you kids were born. We had to choose between groceries and gas money some weeks. But you know what we never had to choose between? Love and money. Family and security. The fact that you see those as competing priorities tells me everything I need to know about the people you've become. Mom, please, Lisa was crying now. We can change. We can be better. I turned back to face them. Can you? Because 3 weeks ago, I needed your support to help my dying sister. Instead, you gave me ultimatums and threatened to cut contact. Tonight, you've confirmed that your love is conditional on your financial benefit. The room was quiet, except for Lisa's soft sobs. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. I'm moving to Phoenix next weekend. I'm selling this house and using the money for Emma's care. My retirement funds have already been donated to establish the foundation. You've lost your mind, Jenny said flatly. No, I've found my purpose. But here's the thing, this isn't permanent. All three of them looked up. You have 6 months to prove to me that you understand what family really means. 6 months to show me that you can love without conditions, give without expecting returns, and support each other through real hardship. I picked up the will from the table. If you can do that, if you can become the people I tried to raise you to be, this goes in the shredder and we start over. And if we can't, Michael asked quietly, then you'll have learned what it feels like to lose someone you love because of your own selfishness. The lesson was just beginning. 2 weeks later, I stood in the Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport baggage claim, watching the Arizona sun blaze through the terminal windows. The dry heat was already seeping through the air conditioning, a sharp contrast to Portland's perpetual dampness. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe freely. Emma was waiting for me in a wheelchair, thinner than she'd been in our video calls, but still radiating that stubborn strength that had carried her through every challenge life had thrown at her. Her oncologist, Dr. Rodriguez, had insisted on the wheelchair after her latest chemotherapy session, but her smile was pure Emma. You actually did it, she said as I bent down to hug her. You crazy, beautiful, stubborn woman. Did you doubt me? Never. But I thought your kids might kidnap you before you could escape Oregon. I laughed, wheeling her toward the exit. They tried. Lisa showed up at the airport with a PowerPoint presentation about Arizona's cost of living. A PowerPoint? For real? 43 slides. She'd researched everything from housing costs to medical facilities to the crime rate in Phoenix suburbs. It was actually quite impressive, if completely missing the point. Emma's small apartment in Ahwatukee was nothing like my spacious house in Portland, but it felt more like home than anywhere I'd been in years. The walls were covered with photos of our childhood in rural Montana, our kids growing up together, family vacations to the Oregon coast. Being surrounded by our shared history reminded me why I was really here. The kids have been calling nonstop, I told Emma as I unpacked my clothes into the tiny guest room closet. At first it was anger, then bargaining. Now we're apparently in the guilt phase. What are they saying? I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the messages. Lisa sent a 17-paragraph email explaining how she's reassessing her priorities. Michael started volunteering at a homeless shelter and sends me daily updates. And Jenny? Well, Jenny hired a lawyer to see if she could have me declared mentally incompetent. She what? Don't worry. Turns out you need actual evidence of mental incompetence, not just disagreement with your decisions. The lawyer basically told her to grow up. Emma coughed, a sound that reminded me why nothing else mattered. How are you holding up with all this family drama? Honestly, I feel lighter than I have in years. It's like I've been carrying around this weight of their expectations and judgments, and now it's gone. That afternoon, I accompanied Emma to her appointment with Dr. Rodriguez at the Mayo Clinic. The building was impressive, all gleaming glass and desert landscaping, but it was the compassion in the medical staff that struck me most. As a nurse, I could spot genuine care from a mile away, and these people had it. Mrs. Mitchell, Dr. Rodriguez said after examining Emma, your sister's condition is serious, but the new treatment protocol is showing some promise. We're cautiously optimistic about extending her quality of life. What does that mean in practical terms? With aggressive treatment, we might be looking at 12 to 18 months instead of 6. But it's going to be tough. The side effects are significant, and she'll need constant support. I squeezed Emma's hand. She's got it. That evening, as Emma rested in her bedroom, I sat on the small balcony overlooking the Sonoran Desert. The sunset was unlike anything in Oregon. Layers of orange and pink stretching across the vast sky, painting the saguaro cacti in golden light. My phone rang. It was Lisa. Mom, I need to tell you something, she said without preamble. I got fired today. What? Why? I've been distracted at work ever since you left. I made some mistakes on a major account. My boss said I seemed like a different person. I waited for her to continue. The thing is, I realized he was right. I am a different person. Ever since we had that conversation about inheritance and money, I keep thinking about what Dad would say if he could see us now. My throat tightened. Lisa rarely talked about her father. What do you think he'd say? I think he'd be ashamed of me. I think he'd be proud of you. For the first time since this whole ordeal began, I heard genuine emotion in my daughter's voice. Lisa, let me finish. I've been so focused on securing my future that I forgot what Dad taught us about living in the present, about being there for the people we love. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm really, genuinely sorry. After we hung up, I found Emma sitting in the kitchen, having heard the entire conversation. One down, she asked? Maybe. It's a start. My phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Mom, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted you to know that I used my signing bonus from the new job to set up a fund for pancreatic cancer research. It's not much, but it's something. I'm learning. Then another from Jenny. I fired the lawyer. I'm sorry. I was scared and I acted badly. Can we talk? I showed the messages to Emma, who smiled despite her exhaustion. Looks like your master plan is working, she said. It's not about the plan anymore, I realized. It's about giving them the space to figure out who they really want to be. And what if they don't figure it out? I looked out at the desert stars beginning to emerge in the darkening sky. Then at least I'll know I tried, and at least we'll have this time together. Emma reached across the small table and took my hand. Thank you for choosing love over fear. As I helped her get ready for bed, I realized that this moment of quiet connection, of being present for someone who needed me, was worth more than any inheritance I could have left my children. The real test, though, was just beginning. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. Tomorrow we'll see if my children's change of heart is genuine, or if they're just trying to manipulate their way back into my will. 3 weeks into my Phoenix adventure, I was getting used to desert life. Morning walks, afternoon siestas during Emma's recovery, evening sunsets. Simple but purposeful. Emma was having a rough day after treatment when someone knocked. Through the peephole, I saw Jenny with a suitcase. "Mom?" "I know you're surprised." My youngest stood in jeans and a t-shirt, hair in a ponytail, looking younger. "What are you doing here?" "I took leave from the law firm. I want to help with Aunt Emma." Emma emerged slowly. "Jenny, what are you doing here?" "I came to help. I came to learn how to be better," Jenny said, crying. The story poured out. Sleepless nights, thinking about our dinner, researching pancreatic cancer, visiting Dad's grave for an overdue conversation. I remembered Dad saying the measure of a person isn't what they accumulate, but what they sacrifice for others. I've been selfish, obsessed with things that don't matter. When I thought you were sick, I was terrified, not about inheritance, but about losing you. You can stay, but you're here to work. Jenny revealed a side I hadn't seen since childhood. She researched Emma's condition, drove to appointments, cooked, cleaned, learned yoga for Emma. The biggest change was how she talked to Emma, asking about her life, dreams, regrets, listening to stories with genuine interest. The real test came Thursday when Emma had a bad reaction. She was weak, nauseous, running fever. Dr. Rodriguez wanted monitoring, but Emma refused. "I'm tired of being poked and prodded." You need to be seen," I said firmly. "Your mom's right," Jenny added. "We love you and we're not taking no for answer." At the hospital, Jenny asked, "Are you really keeping us out of your will permanently?" When Aunt Emma was refusing the hospital, all I could think about was losing her. Not her money, just her, the person she is, her stories, her jokes. Jenny wiped tears. "I don't want to lose you the same way. I want you in my life because you're my mom and I love you. And if there's no inheritance, then I'll be proud of you for helping people who need it." Dr. Rodriguez brought good news. Emma's reaction was manageable. "Michael wants to visit too," Jenny said, driving home. "Call them tomorrow." "They're welcome, but this isn't about winning me back. It's about family." A week later, Phoenix Airport became Mitchell Family Central. Michael arrived Tuesday with research materials, Lisa Thursday looking exhausted but determined. Emma's apartment wasn't designed for 5 adults, but we made it work like childhood camping trips. "This is surreal," Emma whispered, watching my children cooperate in the kitchen. "When did you last see them like this?" "Christmas 2019, before everyone got too busy for family." Michael threw himself into Emma's care with software project intensity. He created medication spreadsheets, mapped routes, designed a symptom tracking app. "This data will help us adjust treatment precisely," Dr. Rodriguez said, reviewing Michael's phone. "I have 3 weeks of being a terrible nephew to make up for," Michael said. Lisa used her financial background researching Emma's insurance, maximizing benefits, finding specialists. "There's an experimental program at Johns Hopkins," she explained, spreading papers across the table. "I've started grant applications." Jenny became Emma's advocate, accompanying her everywhere, researching side effects, learning to give injections. "In law school, they teach you to argue," Jenny said during sunset. "But being here, I'm learning that sometimes the most powerful thing is just being present." The breakthrough came Friday night. Emma started crying during our board game. Train. "Weeks ago I was facing this alone. Now I have all of you fighting for me. I don't know how to process it." "You don't have to process it," Michael said gently. "Just let us love you." "But why did you all come?" Lisa answered first. "Because Mom was right. We lost sight of what family means." "And because we were ashamed," Jenny added. "I realized how little effort I'd put into our relationship." Michael nodded. I spent so much time accumulating things, planning for a future that might never come. Watching you fight for every day changed my perspective. That night, I found Emma on the balcony, looking at stars. What you did, giving them a chance to find themselves, it's remarkable. I'm proud of them. They're becoming who I knew they could be. So you're changing the will back? Real change takes time and must be sustained. The next morning brought incredible news. Dr. Rodriguez called with better-than-hoped test results. We're talking possible remission. Signs are incredibly encouraging. The celebration was unlike anything in our family for years. All of us crying, laughing, hugging Emma. Watching them, I knew they had changed, not from fear of losing inheritance, but from rediscovering selfless love. Time for the final lesson. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. The final chapter is coming. 2 months later, I stood in Martinez and Associates' law office, holding 2 documents that would determine my family's future. Emma sat beside me, healthier thanks to treatment working better than hoped. My children sat across, no longer focused on inheritance. These past months have been the most meaningful of my life, I began. Not because of money I gave away, but watching my children become extraordinary people. Lisa, now working for a healthcare nonprofit, wiped tears. Whatever you've decided, we understand. We're grateful you gave us the chance to be better. Michael, who'd transferred to Phoenix to help Emma, nodded. We were terrible. We prioritized money over love. You had every right to cut us out. Jenny, applying to legal aid organizations, squeezed my hand. You taught us that inheritance isn't about money, it's about values and love. That's the only inheritance that matters. I held up both documents. I have 2 wills here. The first leaves everything to the foundation. The second restores you as beneficiaries. I set down both wills. However, I'm not signing either today. Instead, I'm having a 3rd version drawn up. Half goes to you, not because you've earned it, but because I love you. Half continues funding the foundation. The money comes with one condition. Each of you must commit 10% of your inheritance to helping others, as reminder that wealth is only meaningful when shared. There's something else. I'm setting aside funds for Emma's treatment and her children's education, because that's what families do. Michael was crying. We don't deserve this. Love isn't about deserving. It's about believing in people's capacity to grow. As Martinez made notes, Jenny asked, "What changed your mind?" I realized cutting you out permanently would have been selfish. I would have protected my hurt feelings instead of nurturing your growth. The greatest inheritance isn't money. It's knowing love is conditional on effort, not perfection. That evening, we sat on Emma's balcony watching sunset. Emma was reading, looking like her old self. Michael showed Jenny another app for cancer patients. Lisa coordinated fundraising for her nonprofit. You know the best part? Emma said. 6 months ago, you thought you might lose your children to greed. Instead, you found a way to give them back to themselves. That's the kind of miracle that has nothing to do with money and everything to do with love. 3 months later, Emma's scans showed no cancer. My children had found meaningful work aligned with their values. I learned that sometimes the most powerful thing a parent can do is trust children enough to let them fail, grow, and choose love over fear. Money is a terrible measure of life well lived. But love? Love is the only currency that matters. Thank you for watching this journey. Subscribe and like if this reminded you what truly matters.